It is 8 p.m.
Overturning Roe is a major deal.
A historic day in America. Roe v. Wade is no more.
We trust women. We won't go back.
The Supreme Court overturning the landmark decision that stood for nearly 50 years.
It's a slap in the face to women about using their own judgment to make their own decisions about their reproductive freedom.
Abortion rights activists blasting the decision.
Millions of women in America will go to bed tonight without access to the health care and reproductive care that they had this morning.
The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
Supporters celebrating nationwide restrictions on abortion procedures.
It is one important victory. It's not the end, but we are dancing on the grave of Roe versus Wade.
As encouraging as today's decision is, our work is far from done.
Tonight we take an in-depth look at the decision and what it means for Colorado.
It doesn't mean the fight's over.
Day of demonstrations across the U.S., Americans reacting with anger, joy, fear, and confusion after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Those rallies continuing here in Colorado tonight, where hundreds of people have gathered at the state capitol. Pro-choice advocates condemning the decision as cruel and a dark day in history, while those in support of the decision say that it will save countless lives. Good evening, and thank you for watching Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Danny New. For nearly half a century, abortion has been a constitutional right, but that's now been overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court's 5-4 conservative majority. We're already seeing states enact abortion bans. So let's take a look at this map. So those 13 states you see in red all have trigger bans that were designed to ban abortions within 30 days if the Supreme Court overturned Roe like it did. Governors and attorney generals in states like Missouri, Oklahoma, South Dakota have already acted today to make abortion illegal in those states. Now, the states in orange are likely to ban abortions, and then states in white are uncertain. And then those that you see in purple have protections in place to keep abortion access available, including Colorado, and we'll get to more on that in just a moment. And obviously, it's hard to understate the importance of this moment and this decision. For pro-choice advocates, this was a devastating blow to 50 years of progress in protecting women's rights. For anti-abortion advocates, this is a big step forward to protecting all lives. Denver 7's Megan Lopez is breaking down local reaction and what this decision means for our state.
There are moments in our lives that are historic, moments that will be in textbooks and taught in classrooms for generations to come. This is one of those moments, the moment the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. Denver 7 is going 360 with 4 voices weighing in, some celebrating this moment.
Probably the best day I've been alive so far.
Some outraged by it.
I'm still personally devastated and hurt.
And some wondering what this will mean for other court cases. We'll start with the celebrations.
If you don't have the right to live, you don't have any other right.
Christy Burton Brown is the chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party, but she made her way onto the political scene by advocating for a ballot initiative to outlaw abortions.
In 2008, I was the sponsor of the First Amendment here in Colorado.
She sees this moment as a big step forward, but says there's more work to do around funding and support for families.
We need to give them more options, give them financial support, give them cultural support.
On the other side of the abortion debate, Kiki Council, a reproductive rights attorney.
If the federal government says that our individual states have the right to determine what's best for us and for our bodies, what else does the government have a right to say about?
She worries about the disproportionate impacts this decision will have on women across the country.
It will disproportionately impact impoverished people, people that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and it will affect people in rural communities.
Abortion providers are also worried.
We are heartbroken. This decision is a setback for reproductive health equity, and patient safety.
Even after the fall of Roe, abortion access is legal in Colorado. It was codified into law by the Reproductive Health Equity Act this year. Kim Warner worries about what this will mean for her colleagues in other states and says Colorado is gearing up for an influx of patients.
So we are mobilizing all physicians that can and will perform and give that essential reproductive health care, abortion access. We're all hands on deck.
The fourth voice?
Overturning Roe is a major deal.
DU political science professor Josh Wilson, who says this moment is remarkable because of how the Supreme Court handled it and what it could mean for other rights.
The foundation that Roe stood on top of, by undoing Roe, you're potentially threatening all the other rights that have been established through substantive due process. And so there are big open questions about What will happen with gay rights in the future? What might even happen with access to contraception?
There are moments in our lives that are historic. No matter whether you're pro-choice or anti-abortion, this is one of those moments. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Thank you, Megan. In the 211-page majority opinion issued today, many are pointing to a specific sentence written by Justice Clarence Thomas. In it, he implies that this decision calls for not only revisiting issues like contraception and same-sex marriage, but overturning those precedents as well. Critics point out that Justice Thomas does not imply that today's decision could impact Loving v. Virginia, which established a person's right to interracial marriage. That would impact his own marriage with his wife Ginny, who you may remember is linked to the January 6 hearings for alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Denver 7's Patrick Perez is going deeper on the wording of Justice Thomas's opinion and the implications. He reports while Colorado hasn't codified same-sex marriage into law, with Pride happening this weekend, it's certainly giving people another reason to turn out.
We got married in 2016.
It'll soon be 6 years since Andrew Morrison and his husband Billy got married. And every year since, they've wondered whether someone would take their right to marry away.
When Trump was elected, that was probably the first one to cross my mind.
Now, with Roe versus Wade overturned, that concern has grown.
My main thought was my sister and my female friends who, this is impacting them in an immediate sense. But it wasn't long before I kind of started thinking, again, what precedent does this set and how long will my marriage be protected?
In Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion, he writes the court should reconsider several cases, including the right to same-sex marriage.
Depending on what that decision would look like. Does it mean that suddenly folks who are married across the country, their marriages are dissolved? Does that mean that folks are going to have to pursue civil unions?
It's why Garrett Royer and his team at One Colorado will be working with the legislature next year to make same-sex marriage in the state a protected right. Currently, it's not written into law.
We're going to have to take some time and do some strategizing to make sure that whatever that framework or legislation looks like next year, we are in a good place to ensure that the rights of LGBTQ Coloradans are protected.
For now, LGBTQ Coloradans will march this Pride weekend with a renewed sense of purpose.
I think there's going to be a little bit of anger, a little bit of resistance, but ultimately I think a lot of passion, specifically because of what's happened today.
Patrick Perez, Denver 7.
Thank you, Patrick. And Denver 7 reached out to Governor Polis's office for a statement regarding Justice Thomas's opinion. Polis himself is in a same-sex marriage. A spokesperson says Polis was, quote, shocked and saddened, and that Colorado will stand as a beacon of freedom for all, end quote. A coalition of 83 prosecutors has vowed not to take action against people seeking or performing abortions. They represent 87 million people from 28 states and territories. That includes states planning to protect reproductive rights, but also some that are aiming for tighter restrictions. Meanwhile, President Biden has outlined steps his administration will take to protect abortion access. The administration will defend a woman's right to travel out of state for an abortion if it is outlawed in her home state. He's also directing the Department of Health and Human Services to ensure medications approved by the FDA are, quote, available to the fullest extent possible, end quote. That includes things like contraceptives and medication abortion. Attorney General Merrick Garland said today states cannot ban mifepristone and FDA-approved medication used to end early pregnancy. And when President Trump came into office, he said that he would appoint justices that would overturn Roe v. Wade. Those three justices, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Colorado's own Neil Gorsuch, all voted to overturn Roe. However, during each of their Supreme Court confirmation hearings, all those justices affirmed that Roe is a precedent settled by the court.
Scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled, but descriptively it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted.
As a judge, it is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. By it, I mean Roe v. Wade.
That's the law of the land. I accept the law of the land, Senator, yes.
Even lawmakers say they were misled by Justice Kavanaugh and Gorsuch on Roe v. Wade. Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins says that their decision is, quote, inconsistent with what they said in their testimony, and Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia says Justice Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have lost his trust. And you can find more depth on today's decision by the Supreme Court and the protections Colorado has in place for women seeking abortions right now on the denverjournal.com for you. You can also get the very latest on the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade on the free Denver 7 Plus app, which is available to download now on your streaming service.
Colorado skies will gradually clear tonight with much cooler, wetter weather on the way for the weekend. I'll have your full forecast still to come.
Colorado looking to win it all.
We want the cup! We want the cup! We want the cup!
Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final underway as the Avs look to bring home Lord Stanley after more than 20 years.
Game 2, we brought it. Game 3, we're taking it. Game 5, we're bringing it back. We're going to take the cup.
Denver is getting ready to celebrate Pride Weekend. Coming up, one elementary school shares their big plans to march in honor of their mentor.
And it's encouraging to me because I wish that I could feel so brave when I was your age.